Hi, in this video we're going to have a look at the integrations between the character controller and the inventory system. So in the first video what we did was setting up this character right here with the assault rifle that is integrated between both assets. So if you haven't watched this video, make sure to watch it first. It binds the attributes from the item attribute to whatever is a property on the character item. So now what we want to do is essentially create a UI where we can equip and unequip our item. So what we'll do is go inside the tools, Opsive, Ultimate Inventory System, and we'll head towards the UI designer. So if you're not familiar with any of these UI designers or the inventory system, I would highly recommend you watch these video tutorials. You have a lot of them to go through, and some of them are very interesting for customizing the UI or item move and item actions that I highly recommend that you watch. So what we'll do is go towards here, set up the canvas for this UI designer. So this will be in our scene. And the next thing we'll do is duplicate a schema. So in this example, we use the classic schema. We'll duplicate it within our tutorials folder, and we'll call it the tutorial UI designer schema. So this will take a bit of time. It's basically duplicating all of the prefabs within the schema and creating a new one. Essentially, a schema is your UI, what's called your UI interface or images and sprites that you're using to visually show your items in your inventory, and you can customize them very easily. Although it is recommended to simply use one of the default schemas, and then once you've finished creating a prototype for your UI setup, then you change the different prefabs for whatever you need. So in this case, it finished duplicating, and we'll find that all of our tabs are now available to us. To set up something very easily, we'll use this spawn in scene, which what it will do is spawn a default layout for our inventory. So right here it says, important, please read these instructions on the spawn schema layout by selecting the instructions panel in the scene and runtime. Otherwise you might have errors. So I say, I understand, and we'll have a look at what it did. So if we go to the canvas right here, go to the 2D view, we'll be able to see that there are important classic schema instructions. And it says the classic schema comes with a main menu, which has an inventory grid, a descriptions panel, a save menu. Then we also have a shop menu and a crafting menu. If you wish to save your character inventory, use the save menu. You must add a save components to your inventory system manager and edit whether you will find the options under setup. So let's have a look whether we already have it set it up or not. So within game view, our game object, we can check if we have our save system. We do not. So in this case, what we can do is simply follow the instructions, which is to go to the setup and set up for the save. So we just do add components. There you go. And now you should be able to find right here save system manager and the inventory system manager item saver. So now we'll be able to save our inventory on our character. If we check Atlas, we'll see that in the previous video we automatically added this component right here, inventory bridge saver, which replaces the inventory saver for saving the inventory and the items that are equipped. And so that when you load the data, it will automatically re-equip the items in the correct item collections and item sets. So if we check whatever it says, to open the shop, you'll need a shop opener and a crafting menu opener. For this video, we will ignore this for now. You can now use the UI designer editor, okay, to change your things, blah, blah, blah. Refer to the video tutorials, very important. So we've done all that. Let's hide this instructions menu. There you go. And we should be able now to use our UI to show our items. So we're here. Let's have a look. If we press I, we'll see that we do indeed have our UI to show our weapon, which is assault rifle, and our bullets right here. But we can't really do anything with them. And that's because we haven't set any item actions for our items, so that when we press, it does something. In this case, what we'll do is create a equipable window right here so we can equip our items. And the other thing we see is that when we're moving, it's actually moving in the background, and that's because we're not disabling the input. So let's disable the input first. So within inventory canvas, if we scroll down, you'll find that you have a display panel manager, and this thing can enable and disable the input when you got it selected. And right here, what we'll do is disable the cursor with gameplay and enable cursor with close. So this is quite important if you want to be able to control your cursor with this UI instead of the input on the character. So if I go to the input on the character, you'll see right here that I've got disable cursor off and enable cursor with escape is off also. This was done by the character integration setup. It automatically deactivated these two because we assume that you'll be using with the UI right here. So now if we double check that this is working, now if I close this thing right here and press, then we disable the cursor. So now I can aim perfectly the way I want. And then if I open it, I'm not moving anymore on the character. Okay, so far so good. What we'll want to do now is create this equipable window for our items. So to do this, we'll go to Opsive, Automate Inventory System, and go to UI Designer. The next thing we'll do is create a equipable window. So we'll go to Equipment. Right here, we'll find that we want a parent for our window. We'll go to our canvas and we'll set the parent to within the main menu, and actually within the inventory grid, we'll add it. So we'll add it right here next to the main content of the inventory grid. We'll set this to basic. The panel name can be equipment panel, that's fine. The inventory should be our atlas. And the item slot set should be what the atlas equipable slots is referencing. So here we've got our tutorial inventory database equip slots. So this is the item slot set within the equipable slots item slot collection. So we'll select this prefab right here, or the scriptable object, and we'll assign it right here. If you do not have one, then you can create it. Right before there was an option to press new. So now we've got 3 slots, which is primary, secondary, and tactical, and that's all we need for now. So we'll create this. We'll see here in the scene view, it created those 3 little boxes, which are our 3 slots. So do pay attention that these slots can be anything you want and can be of any category you want. So it's up to you to create the thing that you liked. In this case, it's similar to what we have in the integration demo scene when we have our primary slot, secondary slot, and tactical, which can be grenades. Do not confuse these slots right here with the item select slots, those ones right here that will be created by the item set rules. They're very different. These are the ones that are inside the inventory system side, while these are the ones that are from the character controller side, and they do interact, let's say, but they're not the same thing. So even if there's something inside secondary slot right here, it could be in slot 0, and even if there's something here in tactical slot, it could be in 0, in 1, in 2. It could be in many. at the same time. So let's head back to whatever we're doing before, which was setting this up. We'll see that we have our equipment panel right here. It has a panel binding, and we actually already have a panel binding right here for the inventory. What we'll do is we'll use the same panel to open both at the same time. Because right now what it's going to do is open the inventory, and then within the inventory we can open this other panel, but instead we'll have a single panel and open both at the same time. So to do this, what we could do is simply copy this component, copy component, paste it right here, paste component as new, not as values, as new. This will create another one. So now you have two. One is pointing to the inventory grid, and the other one is pointing to the item slots container, which is this one here. So now I can move this right here. Boop. I can remove this. And so now we have these two main contents within a single panel. So this one is our equipment. We'll move it right here. And we've got our equipment slots container. Sorry. Right here, and we'll see that we've got our three slots. This one, and this one. So this is gonna be our primary. Let's put primary up top, secondary underneath that, and then tactical on the bottom right. There you go. So far we got everything set up the way we want it. And we should probably now set up some item actions, but before we do that, always double check that everything is working as you'd expect. So we should be able to see right now the assault rifle inside the slot right here, the primary slot. So let's remove this, go here, and indeed, we do see it in our primary slots. So we see it in both of them. That's normal because this inventory grid is looking at the entire inventory. We'll basically hide this assault rifle later in the video. So the next thing we want now is be able to equip and unequip. To do that, we need to use item actions. So we'll go back to our designer, and we'll go into our inventory grid. And within the inventory grid, if we scroll down, we should be able to see item actions right here. And within our item actions, we can create some new actions. So in this case, we'll have multiple actions. So let's check this one, the category item action set binding, and we'll create a new one. And we'll call this tutorial. And we'll put it in here. Okay, so we've got some item actions right here that we can select, and an item action set. We don't have one, so we can create one. And we'll call this the equipable item action set. So this is essentially all the actions that we can do on an equipable item. So we've got the item category will be equipable. So if I'm able to select it, let's do it in here instead. Oh. We'll select equipable. Yep. Item actions. And within item actions, we have a lot of choices. And within the integrations, we have all of these ones that start with character. So for example, character drop item action will try to drop the item through the character bridge, character inventory bridge. The character equip and unequip will equip and unequip through the character controller bridge. And here you've got a few things which are quite interesting. So for example, the character use item action, which what we'll do is equip an item action, use it, and then unequip it as soon as it's done. So what we'll do is first go through the equip and unequip one. We double check right here that we've selected the name, which is going to be equip. when the equip item action name is going to be equip and unequip. Here we can choose not to move equip. The difference is an item can be within the character bridge, but not actively equipped. So let's say you have it on the character within the holster, so it's visually seen on the character, but it's not active. You can't use it until you set the item set to be active. So I've got it here as equip and unequip, and we'll create a item action panel. So this, what we'll do is when we click on the item, it will create a little panel where we could select our item action. And here we could create a tooltip, but in this case we won't. We'll just double check that our panel is right here in the middle. And instead of having it in the middle, let's move it. So let's do this 200 so we can actually see what it is. We'll move it to the center right here. So let's save. And now if we go back here and play, if everything went all right, we should have this thing right here when we click, unequip, and equip. There you go. And just like that, we've set up equipping and unequipping. It was that easy. Okay, so now what we could do is try to hide this one once it's equipped, and then we'll equip it from this one. So right here, this one doesn't have an item action. So we'll add an item action to this, and we'll add a filter to this one to disable it. So how could we do this? We'll go back to UI Designer. Okay, go to the inventory grid. Or actually the equipment, so let's do that first since we already have the item action for it. Click here, go to the same thing, and we'll just add the same item set right here. What is it? Tutorial, this one. So we'll just add the same one, and this way we can do the same thing whether we're on the item action or not. Here we can create the item action panel again. So now we have a second item action panel, which is going to be here. So this one, let's set this to 200, and we'll move this one right here on this way. So now we should be able to equip it and unequip it. And what we'll do is also hide it with a filter. So if we go in the inventory grid, scroll down, we should be able to find here filters and sorters, where we can create some default filters. And we'll create one which is gonna be an item collection filter. So what this does is if our item is in the equipable slots, we'll be able to hide it. So equipable here, we go show item collections. We'll open this and we'll say, I want to show the main or the default item collection, and I'll want to hide right here on top of the loadout and the hide. I'll want to hide the equipable. We'll put this to none, and equipable slots. So these names right here needs to match exactly the names that we've defined right here on the Atlas character here. Default, equipable slots, equipable loadout. So now we're hiding these two, and this is hidden by default because it's a loadout, purpose loadout, and we're only showing this one now with this filter. So if I close this and save, if we go back and play, let's see, blah. We've got our assault rifle here, it's hidden, so we don't see it anymore. And click here on equip, it's back here on this side, and equip, and there you go, it works. So now that you learned how to do all of that, you should be able to create your own items with the integrations and your own UI. It's important that if you want to change anything on the UI, you can go to Automate Inventory System videos, and through here you can watch how to customize your UI. That's it for the integration, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.